I'd like to call to order the citizen participation meeting for June 11th, 2024, Foxfire Village Budget Review. So I'm going to hand the meeting over to, I'll let the record show that all council members are present, as well as citizens in the audience. Mary, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Councilman Gilroy.
We'll have another moment of silent prayer. No, just kidding. Just kidding. We're good. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it tonight. I'm going to go through some basic things on the budget, break down some numbers for you, highlight a couple things in each department. And I think in terms of your asking questions, after we go through each department, you can feel free to ask questions focused on that department. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Not that we need to be real tight about it, but so that we have some kind of order. And then once I get a couple highlights in each department, I'll also ask each of the department heads if you want to add anything. Okay? Mm-hmm. Probably the thing most of you have the greatest concern about is there will be no change in your property tax for this year. Okay? It will stay right where it is. There's no change in the county's tax, which means that whatever you paid this year is what you'll pay next year. Okay? So the first slide up here, wait a minute, where is it? Hold it. Inexperienced PowerPoint operator. There we go. Is this on?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to let you slide by me because I'm going to sit on the end. Okay? And I got the board on here. Okay. The first thing I want to show you is how we split up our general revenues for FY24-25, and I'll give you the numbers on the next sheet. But you can see that net ad valorem motor vehicle and personal property tax comprises 54% of our income. Okay, that's a lot. Our sales tax comprises 27%. Unrestricted intergovernmental funds comprises 4%. Restricted intergovernmental funds comprises 3%. That'd be like Palville money. Miscellaneous revenue, permits, and investment earnings is 6%, and transfer from capital reserves is also at 6%. So and one of the things I would just show you is if you look at the two biggest parts of the pie, sales tax and the ad valorem motor vehicle and personal property tax, that is 81% of our income. Okay, that's a lot. And if you go to the next slide, we broke it down. So you can actually see the numbers, and I won't go through all those, but again, the ad valorem tax and the sales tax is a really big portion of our income. We'll operate with an estimated budget revenue there this year of $1,843,643. Okay? Anybody got any questions on that? Yes, sir.
Yeah, does the sales tax include online sales? When we buy something online, does the tax we pay, does it come back to you?
Sales tax.
Online, okay.
I can tell you very quickly how the county does sales tax. They get it from the state, and the county divvies it out based on population. And Foxfire is 0.088%, so we're just under 1%.
Of the sales tax revenue of all of the state of North Carolina. So it takes it by the state, and so the state gets it in all one pot, and then they divvy it out by population
to the county.
To the county.
I think the state divvies it back to the county based on what was spent in the county.
Okay.
Because you pay both a state tax and a county tax.
Correct.
Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. I will tell you this, I've had some conversations with the tax folks up at Moore County. They're phenomenal. They are conservatively estimating an increase of 5% in sales tax this year because of the US Open. Okay, that brings a lot of money in. We did not increase at all. If we get a 5% increase, hallelujah, but we did not put that in the budget. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna move on. All right, now we're gonna look at general fund expenses.
Can you back up for 1 minute?
Yep.
So, you said you're not increasing sales tax at all. So how do these numbers compare with the current year's budget and actual?
We're up $39,000 in sales tax, I think.
Okay.
So we're up a little bit. sales tax, I mean, you know this, sales tax can just be really volatile. This next year with the open here, it could be hotter than a pistol. Then we'll have the most contentious election in the history of the country, and sales tax could tank in 2025. And you have no way to know. So I think if you look at our past budgets, pretty much we have conservatively stuck with whatever we had the year before is what we're using. That way, if there's gravy at the end of the year, great, but you don't come up short. Okay, I'll move on. Now, if you look at general fund expenses for 24 and 25, if you take admin at 18%, police at 20%, fire protection at 18%, that comprises, that's 56% of our expenses. When you throw streets and roads in there, that takes us to 69%. So if you look at where we get our income from, and then you compare it to expenses, those first four categories are the majority of our expense, okay? Guy, I got one left for you.
Thank you, sir. Sorry.
I'm sure you wanna frame it when we're done, so, you know.
Coming into memory. Thanks.
Okay, then you can also see, we do recreation funds of 8%, contingency funds, we have this year at 5%, reserve funds at 18%. Our reserve funds, to me, are really important. It is how we bank money for the future, basically, all right? I mean, my husband laughs at me, but a few years ago, I started reserving in our household budget, and guess what? When we need it, it's already there, and it's a great way to operate. So let me break the numbers for you down on the next page there. Of course, the state requires that municipalities have a balanced budget. You cannot spend more than you're taking in. Okay, I wish the feds would have taught that, but if you look at the general fund expenses by amount, you can kind of see there how it shakes out. And our total budgeted expenses will equal our total budgeted revenues.
And the expenses include reserve funds.
Reserves, and we
So
get some contingency, yeah.
it's not, we're not spending all the money,
No.
we're spending a portion, and then we are reserving, which also is considered
It's
an expense.
Yeah.
So Mary?
Yeah,
So the reserve fund, that's just our little kitty off to the side, so if something goes wrong, all we have is $340,000?
no, not exactly.
Okay.
When we do reserves, we reserve it for certain things. And when we get to that slide, I can tell you what we're reserving. And
Okay.
once we reserve it, it's reserved.
If it's, there's different buckets. And the one that's most, can be used for multiple things is probably our capital projects reserve.
Okay.
Yeah.
The rest are reserved specifically for the bucket
That-
they're in,
yeah.
like
Fine.
streets, pool,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
Thank you.
Now, contingency, where you see contingency there at 5% at $105,000, that can be assigned to anything.
Okay,
I won't say it's floating, but it's not specifically been assigned to a department,
got it.
okay? All right, so,
So you're gonna talk about later the allocation of the reserve.
yeah, yep. I'm just gonna show you the water fund here too. Please remember, the water fund operates independently from the general fund of the village. Okay, the water fund is called an enterprise fund. It has to operate independently. So we don't go sloshing money back and forth, okay? And I'll tell you, I did a finance class a couple months ago, and one of the comments that the lady made from the local government commission was how many utility funds are in trouble. I mean, it is a constant, it's a real big issue, and we are not, and that's a really, really good thing, okay? So if you look at how we bring our revenue in for water, you can see that water billings is 50%, we have tap-on fees, interest from investments, transfer from the capital project fund this year, that's our new well, the one that Warren mentioned is still in the development stage, and then we've got a little set aside from transfer from infrastructure. And if you look at the amounts, water billings comprise just over half of the revenue in the water department. Tap-on fees is second. Interest on investments is there. Capital project fund, that's $223,686. That money had been set aside as a reserve, okay? So it was in there, and now it's come in, and we will have an offset in expenses for that well. And then we have transfer from infrastructure at 2%. Okay? You doing okay? All right, I'm gonna move on.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yep,
Tap-on fees,
yep,
that's basically for new homes, is that correct?
yeah,
So as our developments new homes decrease, this number could decrease, right?
We decreased it though.
We decreased.
Oh, okay, but no, I'm not saying, but in the future, as we move
Yes.
along, the fewer homes
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
building.
Well, yeah, figure, once the village is built out, you aren't gonna have tap-on fees.
Okay,
You're gonna have more in water billing, so,
okay,
but you will no longer have tap-on fees.
alright, thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, moving on to slide number 8. Did I do that right? Okay, you can see in the water fund expenses, it breaks down to a few different categories. You have salaries and benefits at 18%, the water meters we buy, the testing, the water tower maintenance, well repair and maintenance, 16%. The new well construction comes in at 34%. Operating expenses in the water fund department roll in at 11, and then you have professional service, transfer to infrastructure, and transfer to future wells. Those are 2 reserves. And then I'll show you those breakdown in dollars. Whoops. And you can just kind of take a look at that. I will say this, one thing that you may not know, when you look at salaries and benefits and you think, wow, that looks pretty high, because we have a part-time person in the water department, and then we have 1 full-time person. But we take half of the salary and benefits out of our bookkeeper position and assign that to the water department, okay? Because the bookkeeper does a lot of the billing and all the deposits and all the payments, all right? So we go and we don't split her, we just split her salary. Okay, I'm gonna move over to, department highlights, and I'm gonna run through this, and this is where if you have specific questions, you should certainly ask, and you guys, if you have something to add, you should do that. One of the things that we really focused on as we were doing the budget was valuing our village staff. We know that the people that we have who help run the village are super, super important to us. So we did some upgrading administratively. We upgraded to a village administrator position. It's kind of village administrator slash clerk. We have hired a new administrative assistant, which is awesome. She will pick up some of the responsibilities, some of the clerk responsibilities, permitting, permits, park fees, stuff like that, okay? When I moved here in 2011, what I should say is, since I moved here in 2011, the village has doubled in size, and we've never added an additional admin person. So this is somebody who's gonna be a great benefit to us and take some of the load off the village administrator. We also, when Sharon Sanchez retired, she was the deputy finance officer for a long time. When she retired at the end of March, we couldn't really find anyone to take her place. The candidate pool of people who have municipal experience is like, I don't know, what's less than none? I mean, there was like no, I don't know, we interviewed 1 person and that was it. I mean, there really was not candidates for that. So what we decided to do instead was we restructured that position to be a bookkeeper. And then we also have established a relationship with a CPA firm in Sanford. The reason I bring that up is it gives us another set of internal controls. So we'll do the bookkeeping here. The CPA in Sanford will go over our books, do the reconciliations and stuff like that. And in a small village like ours, internal controls is a big deal. Who has the money, who's responsible for the money, who checks the money. And so the CPA that we've connected with in Sanford, not only is she really nice, but she's very competent, and it gives us an extra layer, okay? Jesse, who is our water technician, picked up a couple of new licenses this year that added some to his paycheck. And then a couple things that we have budgeted for. One is a website update. Lisa will be working on that over the next 3 or 4 months. It'll get a refresh and probably be more functional. But there's also a module that we budgeted for that will allow people to fill out permit applications and pay for permits online.
Nice.
Which is really gonna be sweet. The forms will become writable. You will still be able to bring your forms to the village office and you can pay cash. None of that goes away. But for people who are busy and are very accustomed to doing everything online, this will allow them to do that, okay? Any questions or comments on administration? Yeah.
Will there, as part of these online things that you're doing, be something to allow online payment of water bills?
Potentially. Sharon and I, before she retired, took a really good look at doing online payment of water bills, and the cost to the village per year were stiff. It was also a 5-year contract, and we backed off of it and said, we're not doing that, we don't know what our response rate's gonna be. But this new, permit application payment system does allow payments, and it comes through Stripe, and my husband and I use Stripe at home, so I'm familiar with it. It would be done at no cost to the village to collect the payments. There's a 3% resident fee for paying. What we're gonna have to work on is the integration with FMS. FMS is our internal bookkeeping system, and that's where we're gonna have to really take a look and see what's it gonna cost to interface, how do they send us the file, how much extra work is it on our end. I mean, it'd be great, if we can get it to work, we'll be all over it, but it's gonna be a process to really be sure that it'll integrate. I mean, Stripe is, they're fairly well known, they've been around a while. So we're gonna get on that and check it out. If we can get it to work and it's cost effective, we'll do it, there's no reason not to. I'm more concerned about the interface than anything. Any other questions in admin? Okay, let's bump over to police. I put the opening line there as increased salaries equal retention. And the reason we put that there is, I don't know, Don, how many guys have we had leave in the last 3 or 4 years? They come for a couple years and then somebody, gives them a bigger bone, and you cannot fault someone for that. So we've increased salaries across the board, in the chief's position, in the corporal position, which when he's qualified will become sergeant, in both patrol officers. It makes us more competitive, and we're hoping that we'll have longevity with the guys who come.
We've done that also with our administrative staff.
Well, yeah,
too.
we
I mean,
have,
it's not just
that's
the
exactly
police.
right, I should have mentioned that,
We've
yeah.
had to, we've increased our pay ranges.
Yep. There is not a great pool, there just are not a lot of people in the pool who are looking for jobs who have municipal experience.
Right, and plus we're competing with very wealthy communities
Yep.
next door to us with Southern Pines and Pinehurst.
Yep.
So it makes it difficult, but we're doing the best we can and still be responsible with the tax.
Yep, and I think we've done a pretty good job. On the fire side, I'll just mention this, we do an interlocal agreement with the West End Fire Department. I don't know how many of you know that, but in the county, you either have to, if you're a municipality, you either have to have your own fire department, or you have an interlocal agreement with a fire department. Okay, so obviously we don't have our own fire department, so we do an interlocal agreement with the West End. This year in FY24-25, the county has adopted a new funding formula, and we're gonna chat with Eric Stromberg, the fire chief, and Tony Mays, who's on their board. Janice and I are to chat with them after this meeting is over, and we're gonna see if we can't use that funding formula. It would give us consistency, and would give us the ability to forecast what it's gonna cost us each year for fire protection. Okay? Any questions on any of those? Yes, sir.
Yeah, when does the budget year start?
Budget year starts for us, it runs from the 1st of July 2024 through the 30th of June 2025.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Anybody else? Okay, so now, on streets and roads, we're paving Pine Tree Terrace, and we're fixing the Village Drive dip. When I first did this, I put fixing Village dip. I was like, that just doesn't sound right. When you go out of the driveway, out here, it's got a pretty good dip.
We felt it,
We're
yeah.
gonna fix that, okay? Janet's negotiated a multi-year contract on paving, so that keeps us steady.
Janet, not Janice.
I said Janet.
Oh, I thought you said
No,
Janet.
she said Jan.
Oh,
Janet,
okay.
I said Janet.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Didn't wanna take any credit
Yeah, yeah, right.
for all that.
For beating on
Thank
the
you.
pavement. Okay, in recreation, we have added additional funds into the budget this year to fix 2 of the worst spots on the park trails. If you're back there at all, there are like, what are there, Janet, 4 or 5 of them that wash out. I've been back there a lot, and after we have a good storm, it doesn't matter how much stuff you had there, you have divots and rivets, and so we're gonna fix the 2 worst. And then we have a multi-year plan to actually repair the trails. Okay?
And just one thing, I know there were some questions about expanding the burn and the underbrush and the clearing. That question was brought up, and I think the problem, one of the things that kind of stopped us is that they were going to kind of rip up, their plan was to kind of rip up and have a skidder going over the trails we already have, and that's something that we did not want.
That is correct.
And what we really wanted to do was maybe have new trails added when we expand the longleaf pine management. So they're not using our current trails, because they've gotta cut trails in anyway to get their, to do the underbrush clearing. So there's a little bit more to answer some people's questions about, why we just didn't continue with what we have, because we wanna do it smart and we wanna,
Make it last.
we don't wanna ruin the trails that we've got.
That we
And that
spend
we've
our
worked
money
so
on.
hard to create and to maintain.
Okay, other questions on recreation?
Just the pool,
Okay, on the pool,
because it's not on there.
well, it's not on there for a good reason. Until that pool is assessed, and Janet, if I get off track here, pull me back, but until that pool is assessed, and we know the projected longevity of the pool and the projected dollar amount for the repairs, we didn't budget for it. But we have agreed that if we move forward with fixing, we will have a budget amendment out of the general fund, and we will transfer it to pools. We couldn't budget for it because we didn't know, we have no idea what it's gonna be. If they come back and say, your pool's shot, you're done, well, then that's a totally different discussion. If they come back and say, hey, look, the money you've got in there, the 125,000, that'll hold you for a certain number of years, fine, that's a different discussion. That's the only reason it's not in there.
When will the assessment be done?
I can't answer that. I'm
We're
still
still,
waiting.
we are waiting for the companies that we've,
Well, what's happening right now is, everyone is undermanned in terms of people they have. Danny Jackson was just able to hire one guy for the last 3 weeks, new guy. Other than that, he's been on his own. The company that's supposed to be doing the assessment, same problem. They don't have staff. And right now, what was the big push? Memorial Weekend. They all had customers that came first. So the assessment was hopefully going to be done, and I'm hoping in July, but based on the number of employees these people have, and when we can get on a calendar, we're at their mercy.
right,
So,
but you are following up with them on a
Absolutely.
regular basis, so.
absolutely. So, we haven't forgotten about it. I can only harass them so much, and they know we're here, and they know I'm waiting for it.
Right.
So are you saying that there's nothing in the budget for operating a pool or doing anything?
No, there
No,
are,
there's money, it's just that the pool repairs, I think we have
25.
Well, that's in the reserve,
Right.
right? Yeah, we just didn't put it in there because we don't know yet what it's gonna be.
I understand the repairs, but
Yeah, we budget.
there's money in to operate the pool,
Yes.
Yes.
presuming
Yes.
that
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
is
Yes.
gonna be in a repairable
Absolutely.
state.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
The pool, the individual number for the pool is about 70,000 if I'm not, 60.
We took into consideration salaries, maintenance, and so on
Yeah.
and so forth. So that's in
That's in
there.
the budget.
Landscaping,
Okay,
bug spraying,
and
all that kind of
if
stuff.
the pool is repairable
Mhm.
Mhm.
at a decent cost,
Yes,
and considering we have some very healthy reserves and no debt,
right.
if the pool is repairable, is the plan, or would the plan be to go with a management company again, or bring it back in-house?
Bring it back in.
Back in house.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just last question on that, and then I really am, I know it's my first meeting, but I moved here 2 years ago and the pool was, it was terrible. It was the first place I came, I bought my membership right away, and I joined the golf club, I thought it was actually part of that. Then I found out it was through the town, and I bought my membership, and I never went back again, because it was needed to be resurfaced as far as I could see, but it was not, it was just very bad shape. My children then came last year.
Excuse me, can I ask you a question? When you say it needed to be resurfaced, where?
Well, there was a girl that was working at the pool with a bucket and a sponge, scrubbing it while people were in it, so I imagine that's what I think she was doing, like just maybe cleaning sort of green mold or something off it. It doesn't matter, it needed help for sure, we could see that then, right, so that was 2 years ago. And last year I bought another membership, my kids went back, they said it looked better, so I thought maybe you guys did something. And then this year it was closed, so it's not like, I just don't know why we didn't do it in the winter. It's not like we have snow or anything like that to deal with, like we could have looked at this and got people who weren't busy. I don't know, is that?
Well, no, we were,
Completely
we were,
online?
we did have repairs, then we.
That's
well,
what generated the
It's
assessment.
kind of a different conversation than the budget, but we did have people, I'll just say this much. We had repairs scheduled, and those were for $70,000, but we also had some significant leaks that were going on with the pool that, you know, it was going through 30,000-40,000 gallons of water, 60,000 gallons a month. So a lot of water was being also leaked from the pool. When we got the contractors back to, you know, confirm what they were gonna do for the pool, the quote went up by another $25,000. And at that point, we had said, we need to stop and see exactly what's going on, get some other assessments or other people to look at it, and then that's when we decided that an assessment of the pool has never been done, a structural assessment of the pool has never been done. That pool is probably close, if not in excess of 50 years old.
It is.
So that's, you know, it's not like it's a 20-year-old pool. And so it's a big difference spending $100,000 on a 10-year-old pool or a 20-year-old pool and spending $125,000 on a 50-year-old pool where we don't know how structurally sound it is. And we wanna make sure that we spend taxpayer money wisely and we invest on things that aren't gonna fall apart. I would rather
Do it right.
do it right and do it, and, you know, and the assessment is important. I think it's important for everybody to understand. We've got 20 years left in the pool, great, you know? Or they
That
could
would
say,
be great.
you know,
Yeah, it would be nice.
they could say, look at your cement is, you know, cause it's, you know, it degrades, it doesn't last forever. So that's what we really need to do.
Yeah, and we were going months, 40, 50, 60,000 gallons of water disappearing from that pool.
Right,
And it wasn't around the pool, where else was it going?
right.
It's gotta have been under the pool. And eventually cement breaks down. So that was another concern that we had, is about the structure of the pool itself.
Well, imagine what people would say if we spent $125,000 on a pool repair and then the pool collapses, has some major failure in the bottom of the pool. You know, people would be, and
Irate.
they'd be up in arms over it, and I would be too. And we're being very cautious, and I know people are very upset that the pool has been closed for this year, but we didn't think there was we didn't think it was wise to invest $125,000 at this point. It could be, we could find that out very soon. So,
Yes, I joined council the end of February, 1st of March.
mhm,
And at that time, the council was discussing what could be done with the pool. But if you go back to the minutes of the council meetings back last fall, you folks were addressing it then.
Yeah.
I think that's a misconception of the community, is that the council hasn't addressed the problem, but it's been an ongoing
Thank you.
thing.
And
you can
again,
review the
I'm
minutes
not-
and see that,
I've not been here,
you know,
so, I knew it's been a problem for a while, so.
we're working
Yeah.
on it, and it's again, the thing is that it's not an inexpensive,
proposition.
it's not an
It's a lot of money.
inexpensive, it's an expensive amenity. And you have to be careful how you manage that, and that's what we're doing.
Can I ask who's assessing the pool? Is there a company that does that? Is this a company that
Yes,
builds pools, or maintains pools, or?
It is a company, and Janet, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a company that basically builds, public pools, whether
Municipal
it's
pools.
industrial pools, whether they're for hotels,
Communities.
communities, so,
And the
Yes.
name of the company?
I don't have the name of the company.
ADI.
It's ADI,
What city is it in?
I can't tell you.
It's, I don't know, it's either in Greensboro or Raleigh or one of those. It's in North Carolina, that much I know.
Am I correct in thinking it would cost less to rebuild and repair the pool, if possible, than have to replace it?
Well, that's what we are going
That's what we need to
to,
find out.
that's what we're gonna ask. Now, those are all things that this assessment will provide, not only this is what you have, we are also gonna ask, okay, maybe we do something for 5 years, right, or not, but what would it cost to build a new pool? Is it $1 million? Is it $2 million? Is it more? Is it less? We don't know. It
And
could
you
be
build a
any of
new
that.
pool, and everything there
Yes.
has to become handicapped accessible.
Yes.
You trigger
Because
ADA.
that pool is under grandfather right now.
Oh, I know.
Yes.
I
So,
know.
it's gonna be a huge expense to
Right.
build a new
The
pool.
pump house would have to be replaced, we would no longer be grandfathered in for the bathrooms, which have no drains in them, that,
Right.
And
and,
the ADA's.
So it kind of makes sense to try to repair it if you can.
Oh,
Yes.
that's definitely.
because
what-
we'd be grandfathered in.
And how much have we spent over the last 10 years on this? Yeah, I mean,
maybe
it
a
seems to
couple
me it's
hundred
about
thousand.
$70,000 a year, which is
Oh,
pretty
it's
much
more than
$1,000 a
more
day.
than
It's
that.
what-
It's been maintained and it's been invested in
Yeah.
every year,
Right.
significantly, probably $200,000 or $300,000 if I don't have the
It's
numbers.
for, Leslie, you did a report.
Yeah,
I don't have it
I think it's
done.
posted on the website. I think
It
it's
was
over
at one time.
It's
$600,000
still there.
we spent on that.
Right.
Well,
It's
at various
outrageous.
things, I mean, all of that includes redoing all the bathrooms and
Right,
everything
but
else,
that's,
which,
it's all part of it.
which, the bathrooms are still usable and accessible, they were
Yes.
only built a couple of years ago, and, you know, can be used for the pickleball courts or anything else.
Right.
if The
Right.
locking is properly done.
Right, and I think, again, the assessment is the most important thing, because then we can all make educated decisions as a community. I mean, the council isn't gonna sit here and say, this is what we decide. We're gonna go, and we're gonna really push for community input on this, so, okay.
Okay, let's close out with reserves and contingencies. It is an important part of the budget plan. This year, we're gonna put $150,000 into capital reserve. We'll put $50,000 into the police vehicle reserve, which means when we buy a new vehicle next year, which they'll do, it's already funded. We will put $100,000 into the street reserve. We'll put $15,000 into the separation allowance reserve. We'll put $25,000 into the employee compensation reserve, and we'll plug $105,000 into contingencies. Okay? Yeah,
Question here, for the budget year that this budget year, what's your separation allowance expense?
We don't have expense, we're reserving $15,000,
And why don't we have expense?
because we're not paying separation allowance to anyone.
What happened to Chad?
He retired,
he
yes.
retired.
But he retired under, a disability retirement.
Okay.
Is that?
So in
funds for this?
reality, the funding of that separation allowance reserve isn't gonna be needed for a long time.
True,
Probably, yeah.
right. But we've got, like, I think we have, what, I don't know how much we have in there.
$85,000.
I think it's 85, yeah.
85,000.
So I'm just asking, under the circumstances, if we're not paying out any separation allowance, and
Should we move it?
should we not be putting more into that separation allowance fund at this point?
Well, the only-
Because you don't have anybody that's gonna come close to meeting the requirements.
Well, not based on our current employees, but, I mean, there could be other employees that we might hire in the future that could come close to that.
Although it really wouldn't be a logical thing to do that.
It wouldn't.
If somebody's already got 15, 18 years of service in, because that separation allowance, as you are well aware, is the last man standing, the
Mhm.
last employer
No, I
foots
know.
the whole bill.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's just my question as to why we're continuing to fund that, reserve when we could leave that money in contingency Or we could use that money towards, you know, a project like the pool repair, if it's feasible, at this particular point in time. It's just a comment, it's
Yeah.
just something for you to consider. I don't expect an answer.
Yeah.
Well, that completes our slideshow for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming. No. Any other?
Where
Well,
was
you
the
know,
popcorn?
budget's just really not that exciting. What can I say? Are there any other questions about what we propose, how we're gonna do it?
It may not be exciting,
It's important.
But
but
important.
it's damned important.
Yeah, it is important. Yeah, it is important. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No other questions? No? Okay, well, I am going to close this, public, participation meeting at 6:38.
5:35.
Oh, it's 5.
5:35.
I'm sorry, 5:35.
All right.